Hello. Our speakers are here already. How brilliant. Good morning, Bolu. Morning, look at I'll say Pilox because I'm so used to saying Pilox. But good morning, Chris. Good morning, Chinwe. Good morning, Musabe. I pronounced that just fine. And then good morning, Mr. Ebi. Good morning, Daniel. All right, so I'm so excited that we're here today, and I'd like to welcome you all to Forging Tomorrow, Unleashing African Innovation for Global Impact. And it is an absolute honor to have everybody here today. We do this monthly at AIBIA, and some people are OGs by now in attending. But thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us, your lunch break. If you're already in the evening, whatever part of the world you are in, listening in, thank you so much for doing this with us today and spending your time with us. And this is going to be a conversation that you'd find not just timely, but necessary as well. And this is because Africa is standing at the edge of a technological revolution, one that isn't just about catching up with the world, but defining the future on our own terms. We see that there are a lot of conversations happening around AI, around Web3 and blockchain, decentralization and innovation, and all of that's leading to how we as Africans can best position ourselves for this shifting change that's happening, how we can improve our digital landscapes, how we can even better our work cultures, how we can now in the space of remote things and digitalized things and all of these conversations that are happening, how we can best position ourselves for success, and how we can make a better world of sorts for not just our generation, but generations that are coming after us. And one thing that was the core of our building here at AIBIA was creating a community, a space where people could not just learn, but learn to also advocate as well, gain awareness around AI and Web3 and blockchain and innovation and decentralization and all of these topics, and equipping ourselves not just to be data mines for Western tech, but also learning to create technologies and solutions that address the African problem. So basically, AI, AI and tech by Africans for Africans, and we've been doing great work so far. Right, our reach has been we've had reach in over 7, 8, 9 countries, I believe. We've had members join our channels from Burkina Faso, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, of course, Liberia, Libya, I think, and I think that's a country or two I'm missing. So this is a big community, and we are really excited about the work that we are doing here, and we're really glad that you were able to, spend the afternoon listening yet again to another important conversation. And AI, Web3, and data-driven innovation will find that they're not just buzzwords, but they are tools that will shape our next era of African progress. But then innovation is not just about technology, it's about people. It's about the problems we solve, the communities we uplift, the legacies we build, really. And if you know me, you know that word legacy is very important for me this year. And today we have 2 incredible thought leaders. Both I know personally to some degree, and we are not, these men are not just witnessing the transformation, but they're actively shaping it as well with their careers, with kind of conversations they're leading as well. And I'm just really excited to be your host today. My name is Miriam McQuarrie, and we'll be diving into these conversations with curiosity and vision, because the future of African innovation isn't something we wait for, it is something we create. No more should Africa be waiting till life happens, till the world evolves. It's time for us to create these solutions, to position ourselves better, to fix our own problems by our own hands, and stop waiting for the next big thing, but becoming the next big thing. And the future doesn't belong to those who wait, but the future belongs to those who actively create it, who actively shape it. And a way to do that is by having conversations such as this. So sit tight, relax. pen down whatever questions that you have. You could drop it in the chat box. You could wait till after we are done, discussing per speaker. So we're not going to have like a traditional keynote speech today. I'm going to be asking some questions. Some questions we did see from the channels that we have, Discord, and then the Luma registrations. But there are questions that we thought best that that will help us guide this conversation. And so we are starting with our very first speaker, someone who understands the power of transformation very deeply. His name is Oluwatifemi Mesele. I really hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. But he's a data annotator, and he will be helping us unpack how data, when properly harnessed, becomes the key to unlocking African potential. So there are a few questions that we're just going to be conversing around together. So if you have more questions, please just leave it in the chat box. But after we're done, I'm just going to create room for whoever would like to share an insight or ask a question as well. This is not going to take too much of the time. We should be done in about an hour 15. So yeah, let's just make the most of the time. And thank you once again. For awareness purposes, this meeting is going to be recorded so that we provide it to people who are unable to attend the session at this time. So just so you know that it's going to be available on our YouTube channel, just in case you'd also like to have a replay or whatever sort. And so let's just start. Olu, are you here? How are you?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Good afternoon. Okay, give me a second. I think I'm going to turn off my camera a little so I'm able to access my tabs better. I hope that's okay. All right, then. Okay, so Bolu, you are a data annotator. And I remember when we first had this conversation, I was like, oh, I've heard about data annotation, and I've never really seen people physically who are into data annotation. And I'm just like really excited that you are here today to just share your insights. But then, let's start with this. So data fuels innovation, right? And raw data on its own is just noise, it's just numbers, metrics, ones and zeros, binaries that really do not make any sense. And the real impact, therefore, would then come from how we refine it, in your case, annotate it, and apply it to real world problems. So my first question here is, in your experience, how can African businesses and startups leverage quality data to drive global impact?
Okay, so just from my perspective, and for people who are curious, what a data annotator is, because if I were in the audience, you should be wondering what is data annotation. In fact, the first time I heard it too, I was okay, what's that about? So in very simple terms, data annotator is someone who trains large language models. For proper context, that would be, for example, ChatGPT, Llama group, and the likes. So basically what I do is I make sure that the data that these large language models are fed are accurate, they're properly labeled, and they deliver and they pass the proper messages across. So to your question now, which is a great question, by the way. The thing about data is like crude oil, it's everywhere. We fill forms every day. Like we all have the opportunity to interact or to give data at some point or the other during the day. Even when you want to access your phone, you have to input a particular data when it asks for your password. That's the data that you're interacting with currently, that you're interfacing with at that time. But until it is refined, it's just sitting there, it's useless. Data that is not analyzed, that is not interpreted, that is not properly labeled, that is not used in the right sense, is just like a tree trying to make a fish climb a tree. And when data is well, excuse me, when data is well refined and put in the right place, it thrives just like a fish in water. So African businesses sit on a mountain of data, customer transactions, social media interaction, even from weather patterns, but we don't realize the power that it gives, the power that in our fingers, basically. For more, I hate to use this word, but for more advanced societies, data is the lifeblood of everything that they do, every single thing. And I'll give an example here. In Kenya, there's this startup, Tiwigi Foods in Kenya. They figured out that by analyzing food demand patterns, they figured out that, okay, for example, so I don't seem very far-fetched with all these terms. What food demand patterns basically, let's say for area B, they demand more yam than rice. Area C demands more beans than rice. So they saw that, they analyzed that, they understood the data, and they're able to connect farmers directly with vendors. That's cutting out the middleman and reducing food waste. Sometimes farmers have excess of production. Like, if they don't really understand the demands of the market, they will just produce as desperately, it's in quote. So they were able to understand that and cut out the middleman and reduce food waste. And that's data in action. It's not just about having numbers, but knowing how to use them. So if African startups start treating data like gold, if we analyze it properly, we use it in our decision-making processes, and if possibly even monetize it like TikTok and the likes, Facebook is doing, Meta. This might sound like a surprise, but I envision that at some point we'll start paying to use WhatsApp Business. That's just me, in quote, prophesying about how our data is going to be used in the future. But yes, so that would just be a sorry, I think I've lost my train of thought, but let me come back. It says, so if African startups are able to treat data like gold, analyze it and use it to make decisions and even monetize it, they won't just impact local markets, but will compete globally as well. So I think that will do.
Okay, yeah, that's actually very, very insightful. I find that data is something that, for instance, just speaking to the Nigerian market and the Nigerian system in general, data is something that we've not really learned how to use, how to leverage on, even in healthcare, right? Because I've worked in healthcare, and things such as medical histories and the collation of that, the transfer of that data, the even in predictive medicine, right, and in precision medicine, we find that this a lot is just lacking. We are not trained to see data as what it is. We are not trained to use data properly. We are not trained to um, leverage on data in decision making, in how many seeds we are planting, and predicting how much harvest would come, in how many products we should put out there, in even in what the consumers that are going to use this product, do they need this product? Is this product actually going to be a crappy product? Is this something that would help? Because it's all in the numbers. I remember the last time I wrote a statement of purpose for somebody who was going to get a master's in data science, and the first conversation we had, she just said she's fascinated by numbers, and data is numbers, but the thing is she wants to learn how to make sense of those numbers, and basically even do a bit of storytelling with those numbers. We would find that there is so much that we are able to learn about populations, about markets, if we just look at the numbers. And we cannot afford to be lazy with mining this data or leveraging on this data or maximizing this data, because it's the typical thing for people to do. They make a product in the market, it's a startup. The product is not something that the numbers are actually justifying that will be usable or likable or even functional. And it's a lot of things sometimes. So yeah, thank you for that insight. So I think I'm just going to then ask, from this discussion we've just had, since many African businesses, many Nigerian businesses as well, struggle with data collection and management, what can we then do to be able to transform raw data into actionable insights?
I think first, I think we must see data as our friend. Maybe because our society is we're not built on, how do I put this lightly? We're not built on a society where we emphasize the use of data. There's a lot of, just like you mentioned, even in healthcare, and we don't really have a merit-based system. Not that we don't have it, but we don't implement it. So for us, data might seem like a big scary thing, but it doesn't have to be. The trick is to just start small. And I have 3 suggestions that might just be able to fix that. So first one would be use what we already have. Even a simple Excel sheet of a customer order is data. What sells the most, what time of the day is busiest, that's insight. I used to work for a co-workspace company, and one of the things that really drove our growth and revenue was understanding and analyzing data to understand the period at which people come into work the most. And we had to understand that market with simple data like that. We already had that data and we just had to work with it. Second one would be use free and simple tools. Example would be Google Analytics is free. Everyone here has a Google account. And thankfully, we enjoy the very best of the Google platform because majority of the services are free. There's Power BI, even WhatsApp Business now is evolving to give reports. And with that, we can be able to organize raw data into something useful. And third one would be working with AI and tech startups. If you don't know how to use data, we need to find someone who does. And for example, a platform like Zindy connects businesses with AI professionals who can analyze their data. That might sound a little bit far-fetched, but in the sense of once we are able to conquer the first 2 steps, use what we already have, use simple tools, the third one will just come in very easily because that's the next step in the staircase of how we can be able to manage and make practical decisions using the data and from it drawing actionable insights. So another example of how this has transformed a business would be in Kenya. So most of my examples are from Kenya because it seems that in East Africa, Kenya to be exact, they pay more attention to data. And that has really evolved the landscape of their tech ecosystem. And I think they are leading in terms of data-driven decisions and being able to draw out actionable insights from those data. I would want to I'm tempted to give this example. So if you are a bit active on Twitter, you notice that one of the key players in the fintech space in Nigeria released a product that the solution is already on ground. And to make matters worse, it's a solution that the name itself is already used by another product. And you're wondering, how did they make that decision? What made them make that choice? What was the product manager doing? What was the product specialist doing? What was the product managing marketing manager doing? The brand designers, and in the off pitch of the product, they said they used this also amount of years to come up with this product, and the market already has a solution for that product. In fact, it seems like a mere copy, but I feel like if we're able to do the basics, then we can now take the even further steps of creating drawing actionable insights from the raw data that we have.
That was, yes. I like how you gave very simple things. Red quotes I always say is what is in your hand, right? What transfer that to ask is what, and we'd find that many times people think that, oh, the solution it's going to require so much money and so much effort and so much people. But then if we start from using our simple tools, our free simple tools, we might even transform that little business that you have somewhere on the mainland better. How you handled your WhatsApp business and your clothing store and stuff like that, to leverage on all of the tools that are available to you, how sustainability, scalability can come into place kind of business really. So it's very interesting that is that. But then, before, because I know you have to go soon, I'd like to ask, you did mention using AI and AI and tech startups, right? If you can't use these resources, outsource it. But then we find that this is also an active conversation on Twitter and most social media platforms that have a huge database of people in this space. that there are conversations around trusting AI systems, because we really, the way it's going, just last night there's this new trend going on. Apparently you can paste your photo on ChatGPT and tell it to give you GB, I think, format,
Yeah.
and cartoonists and designers are now terrified that what does this mean for cartoonists and animators and designers? Because now, I mean, the work that stuff is doing, it's brilliant, it's really beautiful and well detailed as well. Okay, so if you do this now, the other person, there's now conversations all around, oh, we can't trust AI. What if somebody out there is using this to mine our identity, mine our faces, and there's identity theft and social security issues, and with conversations around uh, misogyny and patriarchy, and all of these systems, and then we have so much flooding of information and so many AI tools are out there, we can't even begin to list them. So if trusting in AI systems depends on transparent and ethical data practices, what then can organizations do, whether you're a startup or a business that wants to trust the startup with your data, do to ensure responsible annotation and the use of data?
Um, so, even I that work in AI, I have trust issues with AI. But one thing I've come to understand is AI would always need human input, always. It's learning at a very rapid rate, but it's the human touch that makes it different. If you remember a couple of years ago when ChatGPT came out, it was exciting, but at some point we began to see the flaws. There are certain questions you ask and it tells you, as a large language model, I cannot produce blah, 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 and all that and all that. But in terms of trust, trust has to be earned, just like people. And if people don't feel safe on how their data is handled, they won't even engage with AI systems in the first place. So trust has to be handled. That's why the ethics around how data is handled with large language models, AI models, generative AI systems, it's very strict. In Africa alone, when it comes to protecting privacy of our data, we have over, if I am correct, we have over 36 of those privacy policies across Africa. In fact, Nigeria's one is one of the most solid. I've gone through it a couple of times because of work. And you realize that beyond just, oh, our data is all over the place, we have to interact with our data, there are a lot of guidelines on how our data is to be used. So for example, with the ChatGPT, Kipli, or I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, there is a limit with which that data can be stored of your picture being uploaded and it's being transformed into something different. And the fear of graphic artists or what's it called, artists generally who draw portraits or all painting is the AI will still constantly lead refinement. The expertise will not be pushed aside. I saw a funny tweet of someone saying, oh, he fired his graphic artist yesterday because ChatGPT just released that. And I laughed because that's not possible. No matter how powerful that tool is, there's the human touch to it. There's the human awareness that the system does not have. So back to the question of how the frameworks that organizations will adopt for responsible use of data, I think we should be transparent. We should let people know what data we're collecting and why. No shady business. No shady business. We should be transparent. And this is some of the things that the privacy policies across Africa and across even Europe. Europe has a more elaborate and exhaustive privacy policy in terms of how data is used, is transmitted, is stored, and it's very clear. And there are fines to how once those policies are breached. And the second way would be to include diverse voices. If only one group of people are the ones labeling the data, for example, in my profession, if it was only, let's say Nigerians, for example, are labeling the data for Africans, there's going to be a bias because we do not holistically hold the the foreknowledge of the entire African continent, the entire African culture, the entire African diversity. So in the bid to phase out bias, we would need AI would need to learn from different cultures across Africa, different individuals across Africa, different experiences, different people. So one of the major things that's emphasized as a data annotator is they consider your background. Beyond that, they consider your location and they consider how you would interact with it as an individual. So for example, if I was annotating data for, let's say, a Kenya-based business, that would be wrong. Although it might seem, oh, this is your profession, something you should do, but the biases, the prejudices that would come from someone who actively lives in Kenya, who works in Kenya, who interacts with the business ecosystem there, will be different from me, who from Nigeria just has a very far-fetched view. And I think to be able to create responsible annotation and responsible use of data, three things, I think I'm overshooting what I'm saying, but let me just go back to three things. Number one, we have to be transparent. Number two, we have to include diverse voices. And number three, privacy policies. That of Nigeria, I think for everyone on this call, if you are free, just Google the NDPR, the Nigerian Data Policy Document. It's been developed into a proper law. I think it started in 2020, it started first in 2019, then evolved in 2023, and it's still ongoing. It's very elaborate. For example, you know this thing that all these loan apps do where they call, they harass the individual if he's not paying. That is actually breaching the law. That's actually breaching your data that they are reaching out to family and friends, harassing them, telling that the individual is being irresponsible. Some even go as far as posting their pictures online, doing obituary. That is a breach of data. Like, and the law exhaustively hints out how that is a breach of your data. The fact that they have access to your data does not mean they can use it as they will. So I think at the end of the day, it's just three things. Be transparent. We have to involve diverse voices and privacy policy. And I think the Nigerian data policy does a very good job at that. And it's evolving. And I think it's still in the National Assembly it becomes like a proper policy document. So I think with this, if people don't trust the AI system, they won't use it, and if they use it, it fails. So yes.
Well, thank you so much. That's a great way to wrap up this session. If people don't trust AI systems, they won't even use it. But it's interesting to hear that there is a bit of hope on the horizon regarding the policies that are protecting our data. Because as a citizen, for one, always thinking that I'm at risk. I'm like, oh, my data is it's not protected. I'm always thinking about how every bit of form I'm filling, I'm always thinking, okay, so how can this data be used? Okay, why are you asking me for this detail? But it's good to know that at least there's a bit of policy making that's going on in Nigeria, for instance. And I hope that if any other African country has not adopted such, they begin to do so as well. And I hope that the policy, by the time they are done, it's passed into law and it's something that actually makes sense and something that actually helps people. But yeah, it's like you said, no shady business. I think it's not just with AI systems, with any products that you're building for people, with any service that you're equally offering as well. No shady business is honestly the best way to go. At the end of honesty and honesty they're not values for human living, but they're also important values for businesses as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Bolu. That was really insightful. That's the first time I was listening to a data annotator in this regard. So thank you so much. All right, to the audience, guys, hello. There are a few people on the call, although there's supposed to be more, but anyways, here there are a few people on the call. What do you guys think? Do you have any questions for Bolu before he goes? Do you have any contributions as well? Any insights to equally share? Any worries also to rant about? I think this would be a safe space for that. So yeah, do we? Okay, then, since there are no questions and I'm not seeing any in the chat box. Are they in the chat box? Okay, I'm not seeing any in the chat box as well. Okay, then I think we'll be moving on to the next session now. Thank you so much, Bolu, for your time with us, AIBIA. Thanks to you. Please, let's just celebrate Bolu because he has to go back to work now. So thank you, Bolu.
Thank you for having me. Do enjoy the rest of your day, and I wish I could stay longer, but I have to go, like you said. So bye.
Yes, thank you so much. The audience is saying thank you as well. A few claps there and there. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, without further ado, we're going to go into the next session so that we do not, overshoot our time here. But so we've talked about data a little, and we've learned that it's the fuel that powers AI innovation, and even the most advanced technologies mean little if they do not serve the people that they are being built for, right? And at the heart of every product, every good product, is not just functionality, but purpose. So it's not that it works and it's pretty. It's also is it serving its purpose? Is it meeting that need? And that brings us to our next speaker, who is one of the most brilliant people I've listened to because I've listened apart from church-wise if you on his and product design and the rest of it. And he is a product designer amongst many things, trust me, amongst many things. And he stands how to with impact, take a vision and transform it into something that people not only use but connect with, into something that people find pretty and functional. Pretty but also functional as well, something and purposeful if for aesthetic sakes, wherever it's meets all of that. So we have his name is Emmanuel Edward, but I call him Pilux. So we have Pilux here, and he'll be sharing with us on the subject user-centric innovation from concept to impact. And this is basically taking ideas to execute, but then beyond execution, also seeing how this works for the people that we've made it for. And this is it's not just an interesting, but also a very necessary topic because many of us are, and I know this from, the data we have of registrations and stuff, that entrepreneurs, builders as well, web developers, designers, product builders, managers, and we have like a really diverse here. Yeah, let's just like hear Pilux on this. So Pilux, thank you for doing this with us. It's really my honor and pleasure. We can't hear you, sir. That's the second having technical issues or connectivity issues. Can you hear me? We can't hear you. Hello, sir.
Hi, Miriam. Can you hear me a lot better now?
Yes, I can.
All right. Thank you so much. My sincere apologies for the network. Probably have a different session where we speak about network in Nigeria and how to solve the problem there. But for now, I sincere apologies on how bad the network
Honestly,
is.
we need to. Honestly, we need
It's a
to.
it's a
It's all. It's a daily struggle.
yeah. But yes, thank you
It's
again for
a
having me
daily
here.
struggle.
The privilege to be with everyone here. Um,
Yeah, it's an
Great
honor.
conversation from Bulu. I really enjoyed it. I wish he was here to hear me say that. Like really brilliant. Data is something I think I want to get to learn a lot about, and hearing from him was really amazing. So thank you to everyone who organized this, and I think I would love to join as often as possible.
All right, thank you so much, sir. That one pass your well wishes to Bolu. um, but okay, yeah, let's just get right into this conversation. It's really an honor to have you here today, and you are a product designer with a wealth of experience, right, in product design, computer. You have background in computer science, I believe, and you serve as a leader as well. So there's a lot we can learn from you as regarding concepts to impact. But let's start with this. In your experience, what does true innovation look like in the context of product design? And this is not just for the product designers, quote unquote, but also for the entrepreneurs that are building businesses here. What does true innovation look like in that context?
All right, thank you so much for that question. I think whenever we think of innovation, like the first thing that comes to our mind is something shiny, something flashy, something grand. And it should be grand, it should be shiny, it should be flashy. All right. But I think innovation is primarily about the problem being solved than the aesthetics of what was solved. All right. So I would like us to think of innovation as something that comes and everyone feels the impact. And the only way people can feel the impact of something is when it addresses their needs. I'll give an example. I feel like there are so many startups, like probably every week. Might be an overestimation, but at least every week is probably a new startup launching in one space or the other. And I can even make bold to say primarily in Nigeria. Every week there is a new startup. But think about um something that maybe just converts or just think about a solution. Maybe not a solution, but it's not as loud as when you get to hear, you just wake up and hear 1 naira is equal to $1. And then everybody just makes this it goes round the whole country because 1 naira is now $1. And I'm not trying to compare 1 naira being $1 to a tech startup. I'm just trying to say the reason why 1 naira to $1 will go round is simply because it's a pain point for everyone. And so you don't need much marketing because we have all realized that the problem we have with 1 naira being 165 or whatever dollar, sorry, $1 being 165 naira, right? We now have something that we now have a news that 1 naira is equal to $1. And so it's more globally accepted, right? So my point is innovation should be focused on solving problems rather than just building. And I think that there has just been a wave, or there used to be a wave of where innovation was just I want to have my name on the list of people who build something. And so you just build and push something and then you become a founder. There was a time where every single probably Instagram handle or Twitter handle had CEO this. Even if it was a tailoring store, CEO something stitches. Like we all just love the idea of being innovators or creators rather than actually solving problems to be creators. So I think true innovation focuses on the problem. What's the problem we are looking to solve? Right. Who are the people that really need this problem being solved? Right. And that's just true innovation. I know I remember watching a video where they were talking about innovations that failed in many years ago. And one of the things I saw was a square tire. Like it's funny to think about it, but there was a time where people had square tires, like tires for vehicles, maybe not cars, but like bicycles were square. And just think about the person who decided that, you know what, for ease or for proper use, let's just make it round. Like as simple as that was an innovation. Right. So I think innovation should focus on the problems. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you so much. That was really, really, really profound. So then my next question would be, since we are in such an evolving tech space, an evolving digital landscape, there's always something new. There's this flood of information, flood of tools as well. There's almost AI for everything and a tool for one thing or the other, and it's just too much really. And people then begin to have frustrations when they're doing try and errors for certain tools. So my question then would be, how can designers then create products that would remain relevant and impactful for years to come? The OG products are still being used, right? In project management, for instance, I mean, people are still using ClickUp and Trello and the rest of it. And for search engine tools, it's still Google and Bing and Yahoo, and it's literally so a few sets of products that are still doing really great years after. So then, since we are trying to create for impact, how can we then create products that remain relevant for years to come? Probably even outlive us for years to come.
All right, thank you so much. I would speak as a designer and someone who's also an entrepreneur. All right, and I would like us to cast our minds back to, maybe obviously we're not alive in those times, but think back to, as a designer, think back to how they had like you probably wanted to announce something, or you wanted to show something as in form of art or design, right? And you had to either physically make a painting or a sculpture just to pass a message, right? So maybe you had this big wall and then you will paint on it. I think we even have, like, if you live in some parts of Lagos, you'll see that some buildings are painted with different, it could just be maybe Indomie or Pico, just something, right? Like that was how, that was a form of design then, right? And people actually had a career in that, painting as a form of design, or sculpting as a form of design. And it was great. It communicated the message as it ought to. But a time came where, sorry for the noise, I happen to live with senators, so they fly by. I'm joking, I don't. So I'm not sure why they're flying by. So a time came where we moved from physically designing things, like physically painting things on walls and sculpting things, into designs, right? And so we had something like maybe Web 1, because there's a reason why we call that thing Web 3, like the use of blockchains and the likes, crypto. There's a reason why we call it Web 3. But like, let's just say Web 1. Started from basic designs, squares, rectangles, not the best pixels, but like they worked, right? And the people who were painting, I want to believe that they did not feel that they were now out of business, so they could no longer paint again. Because at the core root of all these things is the basics of painting: the right choice of colors, the right choice of fonts, the right font styles, what font it communicates, proper spacing, alignments. Those principles, even when you're painting on a wall and when you move into, a laptop to make your designs, it's still the same principles. The only thing that changed is the tool. We moved from using a wall as a tool to using, maybe back then, CorelDRAW 2007. I remember something that old, 2003 or something like that, just something very old, right? The tool changed. The basics never change. The principles never change, just the tool, right? And so the tool has changed. We moved into having those CorelDRAW and then maybe Photoshop. And then a time came, we had the wave of, if you want to create a mobile application or a web screen, you need product designers to design this product. And it became different from graphic designers or brand designers, or even just different creatives in form of design, right? And so a tool came for that: XD, Sketch, Figma, all right? And so if we look into history and we properly follow the patterns, we would see that tools will always change, but the principles remain the same. And so, like Bolu said, these tools are not here to change people or change he said a founder sacked his designer. That's a very bad move, because tools are only to be used by people. Tools don't work on themselves. These AI tools need the right prompts, all right? And when you prompt them, you can actually use them. And if you think, oh, everyone can write a prompt, but as a designer, just between yesterday and today, I found a way where you could take those pictures of, I think they're called, is it Gilby or something like that? You could make a prompt, get those pictures, and then you could also take those pictures that have been created into a form of art, right, a form of cartoon, and you could take it into a different AI and get different layers of it so that you can edit those pictures yourself. This is the work of a designer. All right, you don't just make that prompt and leave it. You learn how to use them. Now, the only thing I think I won't call it a problem, but there are so many tools now. There's so many AI tools. I even saw a video of like those arts created. Some people made videos out of it just yesterday, and it's not the same tool doing it. There are different tools doing this, right? So I strongly believe that the tools will continue to change. It's a progressing world. The tools will continue to change. There were times when I mean, I've explained a lot using maybe the whole blockchain system or the whole movement from Web 1 to like Web 3, where we now do crypto, transparency, and things like that. When it comes to artificial intelligence, there were times where if you really wanted to listen to music, maybe you just go to the website on those small phones back then and you download the song, and then it comes in as I'm looking for one song now. Maybe it's Wizkid Love Me _ MP3 dot, and you just listen to the songs like that. And the only songs you listen to were the ones you knew and the ones you went to download online. Typical, maybe Web 1 or 2. But we have taken innovation to a new level where we now have artificial intelligence, neural networks, where you could be listening to a song on Spotify or YouTube Music, and they recommend a new song for you that you've never heard before, but it's exactly what you want to listen to. And that's because they've taken data of your past listens, the kind of songs you want, the kind of artists you listen to, the kind of beats they are, the genre of the music, and they know what you want already. These are tools, right? It doesn't change the fact that music is still music, but we need to learn to see these things as tools to only, improve on what we need to do. The vision still remains the same. The tools might change, but the vision is the same. The goal is people, right? Users. Everything should be user-centered. So I want to build something for users. There are more tools to do it now. I just need to think of how best to use these tools. How best can I use AI to make something better for people? How best can I use blockchain, Web3 to make things better for people? And as a designer, how can I interpret all these things without making it feel bulky? A good example would be if I was to make a design, right, for Spotify. I mean, now that I just said it, I mean, many people realize that, oh, music recommendations on Spotify is by AI and using neural networks. But you never saw that as a when you open Spotify. You just saw maybe Spotify DJ, and then you click on the play, and then the DJ just picks a song for you. It doesn't necessarily tell you what's going on behind the scene, right? So what you need to do as a designer is find a way to use these tools or these new innovations without letting the people know that's what you're using. Don't make it sound gibberish. Don't say, now, I want you to click on this button so that the neural network will be able to link to your past records and history. Too much noise. Make it very easy for people. As a product designer, one thing we think about every day is how can I make this process shorter, faster, and easier for people, right? So I take in all these tools and all these great innovations, and then I put in my experience as a person, as a human, right? And I make that step shorter for people, and I launch it into the market and see how people react to it. And then I go again, make a review on that, push it back again. I think that's a way to use these new innovations that we have.
That's really, really, really profound, sir. Really, really profound. You've even spoken a little about what I was going to ask next. So I really hope that we are learning this and taking notes from this. And it's something that can potentially affect every kind of career. The tools will change, but the principles, the basics really do not change. And that just helps you gain some sort of confidence, right? For instance, this recent thing that happened between yesterday and today about the pictures with Gibi and ChatGPT, about how designers and cartoonists on Twitter were all complaining, oh, what does this mean for us? How does this understanding our worth then is knowing that the created will never supersede the creator, and no matter how sophisticated AI would get, it's still a man who made it and a man who programmed it, and a man is also able if we dig deeper, we're also able to leverage on those tools and use those tools to our own benefits. So I'm just going to ask before we wrap up, since we now know that we have to create products that people need, we know how to use simple tools and free tools to mine our data from Bolu. We know that we have to always keep our vision in hand while creating products. But for African designers and for African entrepreneurs, there are lots of challenges, but there are opportunities as well. So can you share like some biggest challenges and opportunities when designing for African users, you as a designer, some of the challenges and opportunities you see when designing for Africans, so that others may be able to draw from your experience when they're creating stuff that, oh yeah, somebody experienced this challenge as well. So yeah, this is my similar challenge, and this was an opportunity he shared, so that we're able to build better products.
All right, thank you. Building for designing for like an African space, the African space. So let me pull it really down. That's maybe Nigerian, but let's just say Africa, right? Because it's almost the same thing. We see that the problems are similar, right? And we also, as a designer, you need to get into, should I call it the cultural context of the place you are designing for, right? Design is like a language. Let me think of something. If you walk into an airport and you probably see this big, like this round blue board with a yellow arrow that points left, right? Even if they write the word left under in a very tiny font, chances are you probably not read that left, you just go left, right? Or you're driving and then you see this U-shaped arrow and a cancel. You just look at it and you know, okay, there is no U-turn here, right? Because it's designed, but it's a language, right? And in that same way, design being a language are things people by default just want to look at and understand without necessarily reading what it says. All right. So you know how they jokingly say, I still think it's a joke, but they say if you want to hide something from an African person, just write it. Because we are bad at reading, but we are good at following signs. So you could go to a place 500 times and there could be a sign written somewhere, and you really do not you probably haven't ever read the thing that you just know that whenever I see this board, I know I should not pass here or I should go this way. And that's how Africans are. I think that's how even people generally are, right? And even when you come to things like color, all right, use of shapes or fonts, I think they also have African context. Generally, if you think of the color red, all right, it would mean love, something romantic, something affectionate, right? And so if you want to probably design like a dating app, you might just splash so many red on it. But like if you look into countries, and I recently discovered this, that in Ghana, the color red is more symbolized with funerals, burials, mournings. And so imagine you want to be a remote designer, you get a job in Ghana, and then you just want to design something and you splash so much red on it and send it to the users. And the moment the users see, they just have this solemn attitude towards it, like this sad, and you're wondering why, like you should be excited, it's February and stuff like that. But the culture has a way they identify the color. All right. And so there was a time I had to design something agriculture related for like a company that was in India. And it was a very tough one for me because I had to start realizing that, okay, color means something to these people. All right. Context, even fonts, like these things mean things to people. And so there is something in design we call user research. It's one process you must never skip, both as a designer and as an entrepreneur. You need to discover what your users want, what your users know how to use best, or who these users are, what they really need before you start designing. Design is more than pushing pixels, right? And that's why a normal designer tells, oh, there's a user research aspect to it. There is a user interface aspect to it. There's a user experience aspect to it. User experience is more like, what's the experience for a user? If I log into an application, how long does it take me from the moment I click on the application to finally being able to maybe send money? Does it take like 10 taps, like I tap on this, tap on that, and I finally get it? Or it's 3 taps? Because the longer it is, the lesser people you would have using that product. All right. So all also, I think there was also another time I had to design something. This is Nigeria related now. I had to design something again for a group of farmers, and I was wondering why I had so many farmers working with me. Future, I had to design something for a group of farmers who were in Nigeria, right? And the initial, aspect of me just went to, what, let's just make them sign up here, do this here, do that here, and then they get the customer this. And when I was done with that whole user flow, I had to think about it again, and I realized that if you are looking at farmers in Nigeria or the average farmer in Africa, they are far from tech savvy, right? And we might look at it as a problem in Africa, that we have a problem in Africa where there are a lot of people who are not tech savvy, who are like, their literacy level is very low, and it might almost affect, the aesthetics of what you are designing. But you then realize that design is more than just having some nice, beautiful screens where, your best friend looks at it, who's also a designer, and says, this is the best thing I've ever seen. It's to solve problems. And so the entire design I was working on that day, I realized it wasn't going to work for farmers. And guess what? I eventually went back to using USSD. If you know what USSD is, when you have a small phone, or maybe not a small phone, but you use codes. I ended up not drawing a single box for the design. All we did were user flows that concerned USSD, because we realized that the target market, they have no business with data. They have no business with logging on to www something. All they knew was star 1, 2, 3 star this, and then you get their BVN. Star 1, 2, 3 star this, and you get this. And that was what we ended up doing for that project, USSD. But a designer worked on the project. So I want us to see design more than pushing boxes and pixels, right? It's solving problems. It's solving human problems. And especially in Africa, there's so much to work on. I promise you. Like, I'm not saying you should not japa, but you have more chances of building a unicorn, right? Or designing a unicorn rather in Africa than outside the country, because the fact that we are far behind gives us an opportunity to build so much to catch up to the people in front. All right. So there is so much to build. Like, as a designer, I also feel like now, adding to the fact that we had a problem with this earlier, if you're designing a product that's going to use the internet, you should also factor in, things like a low network bandwidth. What happens when the network is not strong enough? How can this user know this? Or how can, like, that's user experience. And I think, I don't use OP, but people say that if a network or a bank has a low, what's it called? A bank has a low network on receiving money. OP tells you that this bank you're about to send money to has low network, something. And that's design, that's user experience, right? And it might not fly in a country like UK because, everything works well there, I guess. But like in a country like Nigeria, these are the things you factor in, and it makes you a better designer. When you're able to design to the context of the people, you prioritize maybe mobile first rather than web, because mobile phones are more predominant in Africa than any other place compared to laptops and other things, right? So you prioritize mobile first, you prioritize designs for low bandwidths, you learn how to go into the local context of people. You build products that actually people in those, lesser areas, or the rural areas can use. I think that's what makes you a really great designer. Making research into those areas, right? And making sure that every single thing is accounted for in your design. Like I gave the example of OP. Who would have thought about the fact that you want to send money to a GT bank and then they tell you GT bank has issues, right? Why you pick the bank, right? I also saw a part where they said if you're trying to recharge your phone, maybe like MTN or something like that, and you put in more than maybe 1,000 or maybe 9, if you want to get to like 10,000, they notify you that you're putting in figures in tens of thousands. That's a user. That's a user. What's it called? That's user experience. That's design at its best. All right. And I think we should leave this call understanding that design is more than the beauty or the aesthetics, because not to pull any company or anything, but I recently logged into Flutterwave's dashboard, and I promise it's one of the ugliest things I've seen in my life. All right. But these people are a unicorn, right? And they're making billions yearly in dollars, right? Or millions in dollars or billions in dollars profit after tax, right? So in as much as good, beautiful, aesthetically looking designs are, functionality would always trump. functionality is the goal. So make sure to build something that is functional to the context of the people you are working with, and I think it makes you a better designer.
Wow, 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 wow. I mean, you guys the grace here already. There's so much that you've said, so many gems that you've dropped as well. And wow, wow. So to the audience, for those who are just joining us, we are discussing user-centric innovation from concept to impact, and we're basically looking at how to find better products that needs actually for people. So if you have any questions for Lukachi, please drop it in the chat box, and then we would attend to them. But then we would also make room for everyone to like ask any question or share their insight. Well, thank you, Philo. Really amazing. Really amazing. So then again, looking at AI and Web3 technologies, right? And these tools are there. This is the world we live in now. How can we then leverage them in a way that still prioritizes people as the center of our innovation?
Okay, thank you for that question. I mean, I think one thing I have emphasized so much is the fact that we're building these things for people. Right, we're building, like, everything we are doing is not for ourselves as either designers or entrepreneurs or startup founders or one thing or the other. We are building for people. All right, and so it's in our best interest, because the reason why we have this new innovations, let's call them blockchain, blockchain as an innovation, or what's it called, artificial intelligence as an innovation, is simply because it's like the next level of we providing ease for people, right? The next level of using technology to provide ease for people. And so if you want to build something like the example I gave with Spotify and the artificial intelligence that works behind it, very brilliant, right? Very brilliant. So if you want to use something like that, first of all, start from, again, you must never start from, like, if you want to build a product, either as a product designer or as an entrepreneur, but let me speak towards the entrepreneurs. You must never start from, there is AI in the world now, there is blockchain in the world now. How can I build something so that I'll be among the people who have built with blockchain? Or how can I build something so I'm among the people that have built with AI? And then you now sit down and you think, and say, if I use AI to help my friend who has been single for 14 years get a babe, it's a dating app that connects you to your emotions, and you are, I mean, that's actually brilliant. There's never lie, but let's just assume it's a bad example. You are putting yourself first, all right? You are putting what you think is the product first, and then you are pushing it to the people, like you're forcing it down the throats of the people. It's like saying, I have a friend, he's single, I'm going to get a woman, get him, and take him straight to Ikoyi registry, and then get them married instantly. That's what you're doing. You're forcing it down their throats. What's the better thing to do? Speak to your friend. What's the kind of man you want for yourself? Tall, dark, handsome. He must not be a pastor. You know, all those specifications they used to have, you get. But like, what I'm trying to say is, you go to the people, get what they want, understand their needs, all right? And then you wrap the solutions around it. So think about this. Let me think of something from the top of my head. Good. An example can be maybe people buying fake products. All right. Let's just say fake. I don't know how I'm going to end this, but let's just test the brain now. Let's give an example of fake products. I ordered something, it came to me, and I realized it was a fake. How can I solve that using tech? Let's give an example and say maybe every time that a product leaves the original company, let's say you want to get an iPhone, because now we see iPhones that have Google Play. I don't know what the boys in Computer Village and Abba are doing, but they are pretty brilliant at it. But now, you want to get a phone, maybe not an iPhone, but whatever phone you want to get, right? And rather than just going into a market, meeting someone, he brings out the phone from one show glass and then gives you, and then when you now get to realize either fufu or something was inside, right? To solve that kind of problem, you can say, okay, I have noticed there is a problem in this space. Now that I know there's a problem, and I can offer a solution, it is in my best interest to offer that solution with the reigning technology we have. The people don't have to know that it's a technology we are using. Like I said earlier, the more they don't know, the better your product stands, because it feels like you created something ingenious and they don't have to know that it was done with blockchain, artificial intelligence. So think about whenever the product is maybe manufactured in that factory, right? They put it up on the blockchain. Now, remember, blockchain is more or less like a decentralized system that holds data, allows security and transfer of right data, right? So it's like having many nodes at different places that have the exact information, right? It's like saying I have a book, and this book I have, there are like 5,000 other people who have the exact same book, and whatever I write on this book, they also have it written on their books, right? And so I cannot delete what's written on that book. I can only add to what's written on the book, right? So that's how blockchain works, like nodes. So you now take this structure and then you build on that system. So I build this product and I upload the data onto that node system, and then everybody has the data. And then if the phone leaves the factory and it goes to maybe lands in Jumia, Nigeria, it's updated there, right? And so if I want to buy something like that, I can track the process. I can track that this was originally put by the manufacturer, then he moved to Jumia, then he moved to the owner of the phone, let's say Mr. Emmanuel, and then at the point Mr. Emmanuel reported that phone stolen. And so if I'm going to buy this phone, the entire node system knows that this one was stolen and I'm buying a stolen phone from that maybe QR code or scanning device or system, right? That way I have solved the problem, and people might not know, they might just, all a user, speaking from a product design point of view, all the user would have to do is, I want to buy a phone, maybe I turn the back, look for the serial code and write it somewhere, and then I see the entire detail of the phone from the day it was manufactured up until the end, because there is transparency of data with blockchain. That way I can see this phone was reported missing at so and so point. Then next thing, someone logged into this phone. Then next thing, this phone appeared in Ikeja, Nigeria. Next thing, this phone is in my hand, and that way you can tell, and the data can never be deleted. That's blockchain for you. Never be deleted. So you see the entire process. That way, you've solved the problem. So I just gave you a random example of how you can solve a problem using blockchain, right? And the user doesn't have to know it's blockchain. They just need to know that once I go to this particular application, all I need to do is to put in my phone serial code, and then I see all the process and the lifetime of this phone, and it works everywhere in the world, and everybody's happy. And that's innovation. But we started from going to the users to know what they wanted before we realized that one way to solve this is to wrap around the blockchain system on it, or wrap around the artificial intelligence system on it. So we never build from a standpoint of, I want this, so I'm going to build it and push it out. And it's a mistake I have made personally as a founder. Built one of the best systems. I think even as of now, the country is not ready to use it because it was just too advanced. And it was a group of 3 very enthusiastic computer science people who had learned on blockchain as early as 2019, 2020. And we were just ready to do crazy things, and we were just building and building. And the first time, after building for maybe almost a year, the first time we introduced it to a user, I had never seen someone so confused in their entire life. All this lady wanted to do was to make payment, and this system stressed her for like an hour. And that's when we realized we are just built nonsense. Like, we have wasted our time and built what the users don't want. So whenever I say think of users first, go to users first, it's because they are the market, they are the target audience. All right. So you must build what they want, how they want it. But where you now bring our own innovation is in deciding this is what they want, how can I deliver it with ease to them? And then you bring in artificial intelligence, you bring in Web3, and then you have a good product, I believe.
That was no words. That was really, really, really insightful. Really, really insightful. Go to the audience, go to the users first. Have a solution pre-designed in your mind, and then you now run and say, oh yes, I have a vision for the future, and this is going to be the next big thing. But then it's probably going to be the next big thing in maybe a decade, and the audience, the market's not ready for it, just like you said. And really, finally, the truth is, users know. I think not in case of fashion, it's a little trickier, but like most with products and stuff, users know that users know what works best for them. Users know the problems that is pinching them in their shoes. So like go to the users first. AI and Web3, we can use these technologies in diverse ways. And so let's not limit ourselves to it. And also let's not just be the haste to be a part of the people that are using AI and Web3, right? So it's step by step, poco a poco. I think that's Spanish. But really, thank you so much, Pilox, for that. Okay, we have a question, and then we can wrap up. Because Ebony is asking, is there a challenge you experience as a designer that you feel that AI or okay, this question is not complete. Could you type again? I think what she's trying to say is that you feel technology or AI can never have. So the question is there a challenge you experience as a designer that you feel that AI or tech can answer to?
AI or tech can never have an answer to. I mean, as a designer, you're building digitally, right? And except you're going offline. See, like I said, I think the whole purpose of AI technology and everything is to help you as a designer, right? Maybe AI would not tell you that, or maybe it would. I honestly think that there might not be a problem you would not be able to solve with the assistance of all the technology we have in the world. All right, I strongly believe so, except it's a problem of counsel, like you want to advise someone. But when it comes to being a designer and designing products, all right, designing things for people to use, like designing a mobile application, designing web applications for people to use, I think we have gotten to the level where we can say we have enough technology to solve problems. All right. And if at all you get to the point where you realize that this problem I want to solve, there is no technology to solve it, then that in itself is a problem. And then you have to provide the technology to solve it. And so because the reason why we got Web3 is because we realized that data has been stored in one place for a long time. Data has been monopolized, right? So this person has this large bank of data for himself alone, and then except you have access to that data, you cannot do anything outside that. And then we came about the whole blockchain system where you have nodes and everyone has access to it. So if there is ever a problem that you think as a designer, I can't think of one off the top of my head right now. But if there's ever a problem you feel like as a designer, there is no technology to solve it, then that is a solution for you to solve in itself. So you probably switch your hat from being a designer to an entrepreneur or a solution provider, and then you make a solution for that problem you think you solved. But also, don't just go into it as it's a solution and I must solve it. Find out if it's a solution, if it's a problem for other people too, right? Because a problem for one is not really a problem for all. So let's realize, oh, this is a problem for everyone, right? Just like how we would come together and say the fact that data has been monopolized is a global problem, and so we need to create a system where we decentralize the whole data and everyone has access to it and it's transparent and it can never be removed and it's there forever. You get so it should be a problem that everyone realizes it's actually a problem. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, that was really. If there's no tool, then that can solve a problem. Simply that tool, and that's such a creator mindset to have. And if you were here last month, that was discussed beyond AI, the creator's mindset. We had shared stuff around, yeah, so what if AI doesn't fix this? What do we do? And the answer, like we had concluded last time as well, was yeah, maybe so create the tool that solves the problem as well. So if there's a problem that a tool is currently not meeting, then it means that a tool had be created to meet that problem. But that's the entire crux of innovation, not waiting for the future to happen, but rather styling it yourself, creating it yourself. So thank you, Pilox, for that very insightful question. So we're about to wrap up now. So I'm just going to ask you, if you had to give one key takeaway to aspiring designers, entrepreneurs, AI enthusiasts on the call, students, people that are about to transition as well, everybody, in the AIBIA space, looking to build for the future, looking to build for relevance, looking to create impact, what would that key takeaway be?
Hmm. I think I'll just summarize everything I want to say to being build for humans, not for the hype. Right? Build build for humans, design for humans. Realize that there are actual people with needs behind everything you want to do as a designer, as an entrepreneur. So build for humans, don't build for the hype. Realize that trends will fail, right? Tech will shift. People, the only thing that will remain constant is people's core desires, people's core needs, the connection, the ease, you know, those things are the things that will last forever. So back to the very first example I gave, like you will move from the like I said, the tech will shift. So you move from painting on walls to painting on what's it called? On making paintings on your system as a designer. And one day you will finally leave the whole laptop thing, and then you know how the whole what's it called Iron Man movie is, where like it's just in thin air and you have things you are tapping just right in front of you in the sky. I think those technologies already exist, but one day everyone will eventually move there. And so don't be so fixated on the fact that I want to build a solution where people can use blockchain for no. I want to build a solution for people to do this. And blockchain is going to help me. Or design is going to help me. Design using this tool is going to help me. All right. So build for humans. And that's the only way for it to stand the test of time. All right. Following the principles, building for people. The tech would always change. You also come back and make changes to your system, right? Don't get too attached to a design. I'm saying that as a designer. There's that tendency to get too attached to one very beautiful design. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Change it. Don't get too attached to a phase of your work as a product, as an entrepreneur. Learn to pivot. If you push out something to the users, let's say you push out a product where people can now receive money in dollar and then convert it to naira, or the goal of it is for people to save in dollar, whatever. And all people use it for is just to convert, they don't save. You might want to pivot and make sure that that structure where they are able to make conversions is what works the most, if that's what people want. So don't be too attached to the fact that this is what I built this company for and this is what you should do. Look at what people are using it for, look at the needs, let the data, like Bolo said, let the data inform you, right? And build for that. Remember that the goal is to keep iterating, stay curious, and you are designing not for screens, but for a lifetime. You're building products not for the name, but for a lifetime. And like Miriam said earlier, the goal of this is also to leave a legacy, right? We think of Apple, I would think of a lifestyle. The guy who started this is dead, but we think of the lifestyle. That's what comes to our head when we think of Apple. When we think of Nike, we think just do it. Like that might sound like marketing, but in the next 100 years, you think of Nike, you think of just do it, right? You think of what that product can I think of again? A good example should be maybe Red Bull. No one here, I don't think anyone will. If you have, that's nice. But I don't think anybody has really drank that Red Bull. But when you think of Red Bull, you think Red Bull gives you wings. Like, never drank it, but we just know it gives you wings. How? I don't know, but it gives you wings, right? And that's legacy. Like, that's having something itch in the minds of people forever. And I'm sure Red Bull is pretty an old brand, right? So there's probably not a technology behind it. It was just building for people, not for the hype, building for humans, not for the hype. So just make sure that everything you're doing, humans at the end, at the core purpose of it, and make sure you are doing something that provides ease for them, both as a designer and as an entrepreneur, and then you get to leave a very good, lasting legacy. So thank you very much for having me once again. It was indeed a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Can everybody please say thank you? Let's celebrate with emojis and text. Thank you so much. That's ending notes is so beautiful, and I'm writing it down to like post on our platforms, not for screens but for lives, not for screens but for a lifestyle, built for people and not for the hype. Thank you so much, Felix. That was really amazing, very insightful, very profound, a lot to think about. Really, I think both speakers today have left such insightful thoughts with us, and there's just so much to think about, so much to also begin to act with as well. So, do you have any questions or any, who else wants to share anything before we wrap up this session? We have about 4 minutes till the curtains close. 3 minutes now. So do we have anything to share? Yemi, Chinwe, Tony, can I see others on the call? Yemi, are you sharing anything? Okay, he's leaving. Okay, I think he can't talk. All right then. Thank you so much, everybody. Since we have no more questions or contributions. Okay, sir. No contribution. All right. All right then. Yes, a big thank you to both our speakers. Really, really insightful. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending your afternoon with us. I really do hope that this is a conversation for you to remember for a very long while, at least. This is something I say almost every speaking session. I have a host or speakers. That doesn't really matter what you heard. What matters is how well you applied what you've heard, how well you've applied what you've learned. So, for your businesses, for your startups, for your ideas, for building for impact, it's for forging tomorrow. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter at the end of the day that, oh yeah, so at that session I heard this and I heard that. It's always going to be, I heard this and I ran with this, and I just want all of us to take that home today, rather that apply what you've learned today into your product building, into your service building, into how you manage your businesses, how you think about data, how you go about your policy making, and I hope that this has also what's the word, sparked a curiosity for fields that we may not be familiar with, such as data annotation and product design, for those of us here that simply just enthusiasts and students as well. So yeah, that's a wrap. We are on time. Glory. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely rest of day. Yeah, you're so welcome, Chinwe. Thank you so much. Bye now.